Now, the U.S. housing market has shown signs of improvement in recent months. Prices have been increasing and sales are up. But just this week, the chairman of the Federal Reserve said the housing market is far from being out of the woods. Joining us tonight with more insight into the U.S. housing market is Brad Hunter. He's chief economist at Metrostudy, and he has conducted hundreds of housing market studies over the past 25 years. Brad, thanks for joining us tonight.
It's good to be here, Karina.
Do you agree with Bernanke's assessment that we're not in the clear quite yet when it comes to the housing market?
Well, here's the way to look at it. Things are turning around to the positive, and we're back up by 50% in housing starts in the last 9 months. It's a huge increase, but we're still at a third of what normal activity would be, or less than that. And we've still got some ways to go. The housing prices are going up, but still are not back up anywhere near to where they were. So
now Bernanke cited one of the problems now is tight lending standards when it comes to mortgages. How hard is it to get a mortgage in this market?
That's one of the key problems that we're still battling in this housing market, because the haves and the have-nots, right? The haves are the people that have a good job, have savings, they're able to buy whatever house they want, they're buying a bigger house than they had last time. The vast majority of the population, though, isn't in that boat. They need a mortgage. They are having trouble getting a mortgage because the pendulum, which had swung too far to the liberal side on lending, is now too far on the punitive side. And it's really tough for a lot of people, even with a good job, to get a loan.
So you really need stellar credit history.
You really do.
To get
and they just look, they turn over every possible rock and ask you questions and really put you through the ringer to get a loan these days.
Now, despite calls from Republicans for the government to stay out of the market and let market forces at play, we see that the Federal Reserve has made a commitment to buy $40 billion a month when it comes to mortgage securities indefinitely until we see unemployment really tick lower. So having this in a sense, a stimulus, is this really helping to prop up the market? And without it, what would the housing market look like right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is helping to prop up the housing market with 3-4% mortgages. That's helping the people that once they get through the qualification process, if they can get through it, they get an extremely low rate. And that keeps the monthly payment down, allows a lot more people to buy more house. So that's good. If that were taken away, if mortgage rates go higher, which is likely to happen, in 3, 4, 5 years, then that's going to be a challenge for people, especially if they buy a house today at today's interest rates, and then in a few years, if rates go from 4% to 6% even, that's a pretty substantial percentage increase in the monthly payment amount, right?
So you don't want a variable. You got to lock in at these low rates if you can.
Yeah, you can lock in and be prepared to either stay in that house for a long time, or when you go to move up to a different house, be ready for a little bit of a payment shock.
Now, one of the things we're also hearing about these days is increasing tax revenue. And one idea that's been floated around is to get rid of the mortgage interest deduction, that tax break. How likely do you think that's going to happen? And if it were to happen, what would the impact be?
This isn't the time to do that. At some point in the future, maybe we can start doing that. Maybe we can start dismantling the GSEs and give up on FHA, but not now. We're just getting our legs back in the housing market. We've still got a ways to go to get back to full health in the housing market. We're still well below what we need to be. A lot of people are able to buy a home, but we're still excluding a lot of people from being able to buy a home today. So to do anything right now, policy-wise, that would hinder people's ability to buy or be able to afford or be able to finance a home would be a big mistake for the economy.
Brad, you just said just getting our legs back, and of course one negative that has hit the whole housing market, the whole country, has been Superstorm Sandy. We've got some big housing numbers coming out next week, existing home sales, as well as I think we've got housing starts, right? Yep. So how do you think the storm is going to affect those numbers?
Well, it may be too soon to really see an effect in those numbers. However, I think that the most immediate and relevant effect is going to be on cost. Builders are already seeing increased costs of lots, increased costs for labor, and now the labor and materials shortages that are occurring are going to be even worse because so much of the material is either going to be needed up in the Northeast, or factories that are producing these drywall and other building materials won't be able to deliver at the same rate that they had been delivering to the rest of the country. So the whole country will see a cost shock, if you will.
Let's hope this is a bump, not a total derailment. Thank you so much for joining us, Brad.
My pleasure.